Welcome everyone to Otaku Central. Go ahead and leave this playing in the background while you do what you do, and listen to an amazing recap. Today we're diving deep into the first season of the Apothecary Diaries. It's packed with so much intrigue, we thought it would be fun to just geek out about all the crazy twists and turns.
Oh, absolutely. Seriously, it's one of those shows where you think you've got a handle on things and then bam, something else completely unexpected happens. There's just, yeah, so much going on.
Right. Okay, let's jump right into it then. Maomao's introduction. I mean, can you imagine being snatched like that
Yeah,
and sold off to the Imperial Palace?
it's terrifying.
And the second she gets there, she's already noticing stuff, like with those two concubines, Luo and Yoko, and their kids getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty intense that she figures out it's lead poisoning from their makeup.
Mm-hmm.
What struck you about Luo just, ignoring those anonymous warnings?
Well, it immediately tells you a lot about Maomao, doesn't it? Even in that terrifying situation, her brain is just working, connecting the dots. As for Luo ignoring the warnings, maybe it shows the kind of pressure there is in the court, to maintain appearances. Perhaps looking beautiful was seen as more important than even her child's health, sadly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It definitely sets up that contrast between Maomao's practical way of seeing things and, well, the more traditional beliefs within the palace.
Then she gets on Jinshi's radar after helping Guo, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
And that lands her the gig as a food taster. Oh, and that whole mystery in the village with the soldiers getting sick, turns out it was bad air, right?
Yeah.
Toxic fumes from burning stuff and not poison in their food.
Yeah.
It's amazing how quickly she looks beyond the obvious.
Exactly. And if we think about it, that becomes a bit of a pattern, doesn't it? Things aren't always what they seem at first glance. What looked like poisoning turned out to be something else entirely. And Maomao's attention to detail, knowing the difference between, say, eating something bad and breathing something bad, well, that's what cracks the case. You can see why she becomes so valuable.
Totally. And who could forget the rumors about the ghostly woman? That whole story with Fuyo faking being crazy to get out of the court after she fell out of favor.
Oh, yeah.
And then that whole dancing on the wall thing, talk about a plan. Plus, the little hint that Maomao's mom knew about that trick. That little connection was really interesting, wasn't it?
It really was. It made you wonder about Maomao's background. And it makes you think about how appearances and deception play such a huge role in that world. Fuyo's dramatic performance and the fact that Maomao's mother knew about it, it suggests that manipulating what people see is almost a survival tactic there.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely adds another layer to Maomao's past. Like, she comes from a world where that kind of thing is just part of life.
The whole Lady Luua situation was pretty intense, too. Finding out she was still secretly using that lead powder, even after everything.
I know. You'd think she'd learn.
It took Maomao's special diet and those steam baths for her to finally get better. It really shows how determined Maomao can be, even when people aren't exactly cooperating.
It does. Lua going back to the powder and Maomao just sticking with it shows that sometimes the first try isn't enough, You have to keep going, try different things. Bringing in the detox diet and the steam baths shows how Maomao's influence is growing and how she can come up with more involved solutions.
And then that curse that ended up being just a rash. It's kind of funny how sometimes these big, scary mysteries turn out to be something super simple for Maomao.
Right. It really highlights the difference between old beliefs and, well, logical explanations, which is something the show touches on a lot. Maomao just calling it a rash makes some of the court's superstitions look a bit silly.
What did you make of Jinshi asking her about other cursed stuff after that? It's like he's testing her, but you also get the feeling he's genuinely curious about her take on things.
Yeah, it definitely feels like he respects her intelligence. And maybe he's starting to question some of those traditions himself because of her.
The garden party felt like a big moment, right? Maomao's fake freckles getting revealed, that was a surprise.
Huge surprise.
And then Jinshi giving her that hairpin. And the ones from Lady Luia, too. It definitely hinted at all the political games going on between the consorts, a duo, and Lishu. It felt like a moment where Maomao's past and her new life were kind of colliding.
Absolutely. It's interesting how something small like her freckles can have bigger implications. Their reveal ties her back to her life before the palace and makes her a bit vulnerable, maybe. And the hairpins, as we find out later, are like little favors, showing all the complicated relationships and power plays in the palace. Getting gifts from both Luyu and Jinshi puts Maomao in a really interesting spot.
Yeah, definitely. The poison soup thing was another great little mystery. Lishu being allergic to mackerel and the dishes getting mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maomao figuring out that Lishu was actually being picked on. And that taster-swapping bowls totally saved Guo. It showed how Maomao doesn't just solve the puzzle, she figures out the reasons behind it too.
Exactly. It wasn't just a mistake with the food. Mao Mao was able to see the bigger picture, the social dynamics, and the fact that someone was intentionally trying to harm Li Shu. And it's likely that the paster, maybe having seen Mao Mao's skills before, was sharp enough to react quickly. Good thing, too.
And when Sean explained the hairpins were like favors, that was key. That's what let Maomao convince Liaku, who gave her a hairpin, right, to sneak her out. She promised him access to the top people at her old brothel, Rokushukan.
Right, using that favor. Clever.
That whole adventure there, saving that courtesan and the customer from the tobacco poisoning that looked like a suicide pact.
Yeah, that was wild.
And stopping the attempted murder of the merchant's kid, Maomao, was just on a roll. And she even got gifts from the madam for all her trouble. That whole thing really highlighted her street smarts and her connections outside the palace.
That whole arc was fantastic. It really showed how many different skills Mao Mao has. Her knowledge of poisons, how well she reads people, and her connections to the brothel world all came into play. The fact that she solved multiple problems and even stopped a murder plot just shows how resourceful and determined she is.
Then you had those darker cases like the high official Corinne dying from too much salt. Seemed simple, but maybe wasn't. And that drowned servant with bound feet.
Yeah, those definitely took a darker turn.
The servant case connecting back to the garden party poisoning. Things started getting really complicated, like there was something bigger going on behind the scenes.
No. Those cases definitely hinted at more serious, maybe even politically motivated events. Corinne's death seems straightforward, but you can't help but wonder if there was more to it, and the drowned servant was clearly not an accident. The link back to the garden party poisoning definitely suggested a larger, more dangerous plot unfolding.
And what about the connection between Fang Ming, Lady Aduo's helper, and the burns from that curse thing earlier?
Right.
And all the rumors about Aduo maybe losing her title and her connection to the old emperor and her dead son. It felt like all these little pieces were finally starting to fit together.
Exactly. It was like you could see the bigger picture starting to form. The link between Fang Ming and that earlier incident, mixed with all the rumors surrounding A Duo, make you realize that a lot of these things weren't random at all, but were connected by people's motivations and past events within the court.
And then Maomao helping Aduo and finding Fang Ming's secret messages that connected Luo's allergies, the servant's death, and Luo being scared of Fang Ming. That was a huge breakthrough.
It really was.
And then finding out about Aduo's dead son and the doctor who got kicked out, who was Maomao's adoptive dad. That was a major reveal that tied Maomao right into the middle of everything.
It was a pivotal moment for sure. Mao Mao's personal history suddenly became so important to the bigger mystery. Those coded messages showed a real level of planning and manipulation, and finding out about her adoptive father added a whole new emotional layer to the story.
The truth about Aduo not being able to have more kids after her first birth, and Fang Ming poisoning her son because some other royal birth was seen as more important, that was such a sad story.
So tragic.
And Fang Ming also poisoned Li Shu. Bao Mao trying to help Fang Ming make peace, but Aduo leaving was already decided. It really made you feel for what was driving all the bad things that happened.
It really showed the human cost of all the power struggles in the palace. Fang Ming's actions, even though they were terrible, came from a place of deep pain and a sense of injustice. Aduo's situation and the fact that Fang Ming's choices had such permanent consequences was really heartbreaking.
Then Maomao starts thinking that Jinshi might actually be Aduo's lost son. That would be a massive twist.
Oh yeah, that suspicion definitely adds a whole new level of intrigue to Jinshi's character and how he acts around Maomao. If that turned out to be true, it would change how you see everything that happened between them and maybe even suggest a family connection. It makes you rethink everything.
Totally. After Fang Ming was caught, Maomao gets let go because of her family's history with trafficking, which felt really unfair.
So unfair.
But Jinshi can't quite leave her alone, even though he's worried about her maybe being resentful. It showed how unfair things could be and how Maomao's past could still affect her present.
It really highlighted the strict social rules and prejudices within the palace. Even though Maomao had done so much good, she was still judged for her family's past. Jinshi being torn between recognizing her worth and worrying about the consequences made their situation really interesting.
Maomao going back to the brothel part-time and then Jinshi realizing he messed up and buying her freedom.
Yeah.
That's such a good moment.
Yes.
And she ends up back in the outer palace, not the rear. It felt like a real step forward for them.
Definitely a turning point in their relationship. It showed how much Jinshi had come to value Maomao and that he was willing to go against the norm to make sure she was okay. Her ending up in the Outer Palace felt like her getting a bit more respect and maybe a more direct role in Jinshi's affairs.
Jinshi wanting her to keep wearing her freckle makeup is kind of interesting, isn't it?
It is. It could mean a lot of things. Maybe he likes that she's different, or maybe it's a reminder of where she came from. Keeps her grounded, maybe?
Could be. And then she meets Surin and becomes her assistant, which definitely makes some people jealous. It adds another layer to why Jinshi is so interested in her and brings in a new character who seems to have her own secrets.
Yeah, Suiren showing up and Maomao becoming her assistant definitely stirs things up in the palace and makes you wonder what Suiren is really up to. Very mysterious.
Remember when she figured out that palace fire was arson, caused by embers and wheat dust, of all things? And then she told Liaku about the no smoking rule.
Exactly. It showed that Maomao thinks logically and uses her scientific knowledge even in situations that might seem like accidents. Her giving that advice showed her taking initiative and having a real impact on palace safety. Smart.
And the case with that official in a coma who ate raw fugu Maomao, figuring out it was actually bad seaweed, even with his brother trying to hide the truth. She's so clever. She doesn't just take the easy answer, she keeps digging.
Right. Maomao is not easily fooled. She questions things and isn't afraid to look deeper, even when people are trying to mislead her. Her knowledge of different kinds of poisons and her persistence in finding the real cause are what make her so good at what she does.
Jinshi having to deal with people complaining about him hiring someone from a brothel.
Yeah.
That felt realistic. And then giving Maomao that metal worker's will, that whole puzzle with the shack, the chest, the fishbowl.
Oh, that was classic Maomao.
And Maomao melting the solder to find the key, and that bluish crystal that was perfect. And her suggesting they ask her dad about the crystal hinted that that might be important later.
It was a perfect Maomao moment. She uses her chemistry skills, her observation skills, and her understanding of how people think to solve that mystery. And that crystal definitely feels like a clue to something bigger, especially with the mention of her father.
That night, Jinshi asking Maomao to disguise him for some secret job. She changed how he looked, how he smelled, even how he sounded.
That was great.
It was a fun little scene that showed how much they trusted each other and how versatile Maomao is.
It was a great moment that showed off Maomao's creativity and their growing bond. The fact that she could completely transform Jinshi highlights her resourcefulness and their willingness to rely on each other in unexpected ways.
During their walk, they talked about Maomao's adopted father, Lumen, who'd studied abroad, right?
Okay.
And the whole idea of purity for courtesans. Maomao explained how losing it cut their value in half and pregnancy made it 0.
Yeah, that was insightful.
And Maomao refusing to go with Jinshi all the way because she thought her clothes would give him away, and then taking a few days off. It gave us more insight into the world she came from and how practical she is.
That conversation really gave us a deeper understanding of the social rules and the economic realities of the courtesan world and showed how Maomao navigates those rules. Her practicality and her awareness of social expectations are clear in her explanation and her decision to prioritize Jinshi's mission.
Her nightmare about her mom being sick with syphilis and being treated by Lumen at Rokushukan, that added another sad layer to her past, suggesting she might have had a tough childhood.
That little glimpse into Maomao's dreams definitely hinted at some past trauma and maybe a personal connection to the medical issues she deals with now. It adds a bit more depth to her character for sure.
Lakan showing interest in Maomao definitely made things tense with Jinshi.
Oh, yeah.
It brought in a new character who could be really powerful and complicated their growing relationship.
Lakan's appearance definitely throws a wrench into things and introduces a potential rivalry. His interest in Maomao creates a power dynamic that could have big consequences for both of them.
Maomao running into Suiren again. And Suiren mentioning she was planting herbs for resurrection medicine that sounded really intriguing.
Definitely. It kind of hinted at something magical or at least some very advanced medical ideas. What was that about?
Right. And Liaku telling Maomao about the stolen ceremonial tools connected to the warehouse explosion, and Maomao realizing the poisoned warehouse manager had taken over from someone named Conan.
Connecting the dots again.
And then connecting the ivory pipe to a tall lady in the court and suspecting something was wrong with Jinshi's purification ritual.
Yeah.
All these clues were starting to come together, pointing to a bigger conspiracy.
It felt like all the pieces were starting to fall into place. The stolen tools, the warehouse explosion, the ivory pipe, the change in management, they all suggested a carefully planned plot with serious implications, possibly even targeting Jinshi.
That dramatic moment when Maomao got stopped and hit by the guards, but then Lakan saved her. And then she saved Jinshi from that falling decoration before she passed out. That was a really exciting part that showed how brave she is and the danger she can be in.
That whole sequence was intense. Mao Mao's courage and how quickly she thinks under pressure were amazing. And Lacan stepping in again just made his character even more mysterious, while Mao Mao's instinct to protect Jinshi really showed her loyalty.
Waking up in Jinshi's room and Liaku telling her that Suinen had been poisoned.
What?
And then Maomao suspecting Thornapple and finding a different body in Suiren's coffin, what was going on there. That was a huge twist that totally changed what we thought about Suiren.
That was a shocking reveal that opened up a whole new mystery. Suiren apparently being poisoned and then finding a fake body in her coffin suggests a level of deception and secrecy that raises so many questions about who she really is and what she's up to.
Jinshi getting worried about Maomao's biological father, Lacan, and then revealing that he uses something to suppress his manhood. There was a massive reveal.
Huge. It added so much complexity to Jinshi and his relationship with Mao Mao. Jinshi being that vulnerable and sharing such a personal secret really showed how much he trusts Mao Mao and how concerned he is about the potential threat from Lacan. It also gave us a big piece of the puzzle about Jinshi's own identity.
Yoko may be being pregnant and asking Maomao for help, which takes her back to the rear palace. It felt like things were coming full circle and there were new medical mysteries for her to solve.
It did bring things back to where they started in a way, with Mao Mao back in the familiar setting of the rear palace, but now with all the experience she's gained, Yoko needing her help sets up some new medical challenges for her.
Liaku asking Maomao for advice on how to buy out Pyron, and Jinshi offering to just give him double the money, but Liaku wanting to do it the traditional way. That was sweet.
It was a nice contrast to the more serious plots, showing a more traditional and heartfelt approach to romance, with Liaku really wanting to earn Pyron's affection. Jinshi's offer was generous, but you could see why Liaku wanted to do it himself.
Lakan challenging Jinshi by demanding blue roses for the spring party.
The blue roses.
Maomao getting really into it, using Lady Lua's sauna as a greenhouse, and actually making them despite staying up all night. And then Jinshi using the roses to kind of show his power, and the introduction of a new threat from Lakan's dad, Shishu.
That challenge really showed off Mao Mao's scientific curiosity and her ability to figure things out. Her success with the blue roses was a testament to her hard work and knowledge, and Jinshi using them to make a statement, plus the arrival of Shishu, definitely signaled that things were getting even more complicated. The stakes just keep getting higher.
Maomao also making those multicolored roses and secretly telling the emperor her dye trick to avoid any political issues. She's so smart, she's always thinking ahead.
It really demonstrated Mao Mao's political awareness and her ability to navigate the tricky court dynamics. Her clever move with the roses prevented potential conflict and further showed how valuable she is.
Lacan accepting a Chinese chess challenge from Maomao, with the prize being buying out a courtesan, and Maomao winning by getting him drunk.
That was brilliant. Such a Mao Mao move.
It was a funny way to handle a serious situation.
That encounter definitely highlighted Mao Mao's unconventional methods and her willingness to use whatever it takes to achieve her goals. Her victory over Lacan, while humorous, also revealed a bit about his weaknesses.
Lacan's backstory, his love for Feng Xin, who was an amazing Go player and courtesan, and her sad story after getting pregnant with Maomao.
Yeah, that explains so much.
And then him finding out Fei Xing was still alive and deciding to buy her out, even though she wasn't expected to live much longer. That really helped understand why Lacan was so interested in Maomao.
Lacan's tragic love story gave us a crucial look into his character and explained his intense interest in Maomao. Finding out Feng Jian was still alive, even in poor health, added a really poignant and dramatic layer to Maomao's family history.
That sweet moment with Jinshi finding Maomao trying on that dress my eye sent, and him just jumping off the wall to carry her back to the palace.
Ah, yeah. That was a rare moment of tenderness between them. That brief, sweet moment really showed the growing affection and connection between Maomao and Jinshi, offering a little break from all the intrigue and danger.
And the season ends with Jinshi showing up at the Jade Pavilion with a new case for her. So many unanswered questions and new mysteries.
Cliffhanger.
You're just left wanting to see what happens next.
Exactly. The ending was perfect for setting up the next part of the story, leaving us with so many questions and teasing new challenges for Mao Mao.
Wow, going through all that just reminds you how much happened in the first season. So many interesting characters, crazy mysteries, and hints at even bigger secrets. What were some of your favorite moments or theories after hearing all that again? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more anime content.